What evil lurks in the hearts of men? Not the duck. Totally different guy. This is Tad Stones, creator of The Terror That Flaps in the Night, and you're listening to The St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast.
Welcome, everybody. Today we got the Avengers or Justice League. Well, something similar to it. Welcome to the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and
I'm Mike Russo, and this is the second most painful moment of my life.
Or third, or first.
But not really, because I love this episode.
Oh, yeah, man. I love this episode. Mike, we have a lot going on this episode. This is probably...
Sure do.
Yeah, this is probably the most popular episode that I can think of. It's not my favorite episode, but we can't deny what it is, though.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert, it's in my top 5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, guys, we're not going to get into a whole conversation before we start this episode today. Me and Mike said we're going to just talk about one thing real quick, an announcement. We're going to give our shout-outs, and then we're going to just jump into it. We know you guys are anticipating this one. You're excited. So, Mike, let's go ahead and do the announcement real quick. All right.
Let's go for that.
Yeah, let's go for that. The announcement is basically we are now officially on Amazon Alexa. We're on those Echo devices. All you got to do is say, I can't say her name because mine's right behind me. It'll start playing. Tell the Echo her name and say, play the St. Canard Files, the Darkwing Duck podcast on Apple Podcasts. You have to say on Apple Podcasts, and it will start playing, and it immediately will take you to the very last episode that we have uploaded. If that's not the episode you want, you will say her name and then play whatever episode number it is, and it'll go right to it. I tested it. It works. I love it. We're now on Amazon.
Oh, that sounds so easy. It makes me actually want to get an Echo, which I do not have. I want to get one now that we can be on it.
Well,
all of a sudden, I want one.
Well, you know what? Let me give it see if it'll work. Let me give it a quick test here, so maybe they can hear it. All right, Amazon. Oh, not Amazon. Alexa, play the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast on Apple Podcasts.
Here's the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast from Apple Podcasts. Resuming the latest episode, episode 18, Trading Faces.
Alexa, turn off. There you go. You see it works.
That was so cool.
Yeah. So there you go.
and like we do every episode, we're dating ourselves. Because Trading Faces was the most recent one that came out when we recorded this. You see how far ahead we are.
Yeah, so there you go. You see it work. Mike, you have an announcement to make for us also, and kind of a shout out with it.
Yeah, it's a shout out. Somebody from the Darkwing Duck writing team has been following our podcast. That would be Jim Peterson. He is 1/3 of the Jim Peterson, John Banky, and Rob Humphrey writing team. They wrote Beauty and the Beat. We've talked about them a few times. But Jim Peterson has been following the podcast off and on, and he's been giving us some feedback. I've been in communication with him. He's a really nice guy, and it's a little ways away, a couple of months from now, but he's agreed to be on our show.
All right.
Among the future episodes he's written are Ghoul of My Dreams, It's a Wonderful Leaf, Twitching Channels, and Hot Spells.
Hey, hot
And
spells. Actually,
if
you named like 3 of them I like.
yeah, I know they're all good episodes. And if our luck holds out, he will be doing Ghoul of My Dreams with us.
Woohoo! Hey, we might
So
need to see if we can get him on hot spells too.
I think he'd be interested in that one. He mentioned that. He said he would definitely do it. It's just a ways away.
Yeah, it's a long
So
way.
so yeah, thank you, Jim, for listening to the podcast, agreeing to be on with us, and we look forward to our time with you.
All right, and since we got a Fearsome 5 episode, I'm gonna go ahead and that was one shout out. I'm gonna give 4 more real quick. So this is a good one to
Oh
get your
wow.
name drop. All right, we got Michelle Pfaff. I think the P is silent, so I apologize if I screw that up. Greasy Carrillo, Jacob Toon, and I want to give a shout out also to Katie Lee's husband, Vinny. I believe his last name is pronounced J. Vinny has been in communication with me and he's been keeping me posted. We've had some things we've been plotting together. I can't really spill the beans, but Vinny, I love you to death, man. I appreciate all the love you've been giving us, man, and all the love you've been giving toward me. I really appreciate it. I need you with this hookup with Katie you've been doing so far.
Awesome.
Yeah, so those are our shout outs. And Mike, what episode are we doing today, obviously?
Just Us, Justice Ducks, Part 1.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into it, Mike. Who's our or what's our production and air date order?
Okay, so this one aired Wednesday, October 2nd, 1991. And here we go. This is an episode that I think out of all of them suffered most from Darkwing Duck's absolutely insane scheduling. This one was 44th in production order. Really, really, really deep in production. We've only done one that's been later than this one.
And it was show.
And it shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
And between, there's been, if we take the production numbers at face value, there are 23 episodes before this one that haven't even aired yet. 23. Including Tiff of the Titans, Whiffle While You Work, Toys R Us, Ghoul of My Dreams, Something Fishy, Jurassic Jumble, and Dry Hard. And there's a reason I mention all those episodes. That's going to become very apparent as we talk about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have a ton of characters making their first appearance in this episode that we have not talked about yet at all.
Mm-hmm.
None of these characters should be appearing this early in the show because we haven't gotten any of their origin episodes yet. I want you, just for a second, to picture how it must have been to a 12-year-old watching this series in real time on television as it aired. To not know half the characters that appear on the show. And this one airs as this big, gigantic, Endgame-like character team-up. It was baffling to me, and I've never quite shaken that feeling of watching this one and not knowing who half the characters are. But you know what? It is what it is. They wanted to get this one aired as soon as they could, and, it doesn't suffer for it. It's a fantastic episode. Like I said, this one and part 2 together as one story is in my top 5.
Okay.
So,
now, I'm going to say this real quick, Mike, and then let you keep going. For me, I did catch this episode. I didn't catch it on the original air date. This is one of the episodes that I caught on my cousin, the Ivan tapes, what I call the Ivan tapes.
Right. So you were probably a little bit more lucky than I was.
A little bit. I think. No, you know what? Let's just keep going. We'll talk about that a little bit. Some other episode.
Then again, you didn't see the Saturday morning ones until much later, and a bunch of characters who show up in this got their start in Saturday morning episodes. So if you didn't see those at all, you would have missed those characters' origins, such as Morgana.
Yep.
Anyway, our story editor was Dwayne Capizzi, and we've talked about him. We have some new writers in this episode.
Yeah.
Some of my all-time favorite Darkwing Duck writers, next to Dev Ross and Doug Langdale. We have Kevin Campbell and Brian Swinlin. Wow, they wrote some of the all-time best episodes, straight out. They wrote some earlier ones that we haven't gotten to because of the scheduling issues with this show, including In Like Blunt and Battle of the Brain Teasers. They also wrote Heavy Mental, but they also wrote both of the Justice Ducks episodes. They wrote Dry Hard, which is a great Liquidator origin episode, and they wrote Life, the Negaverse, and Everything.
Hey,
So-
I know that's your baby.
Yeah, so 2 of the stories they wrote are in my top 5. So Kevin Campbell and Brian Swinland. Darkwing Duck was actually the very first show they wrote on.
Oh,
So talk about batting 1,000 right out of the gate.
I know, right?
And they were very involved with Disney. They wrote together on most Disney shows. I'm not even gonna bother naming it. They both had really good careers. And wrote, like I said, some of the very best Darkwing Duck episodes. Funny enough, they wrote the vast majority of Liquidator episodes.
Mm.
He was in 6. They wrote 4.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they knew Liquidator better than any other writers. They actually also wrote a Liquidator comic story that was published in Disney Adventures.
Mm.
It was called Liquid Diet. Now, many people have complained that Liquidator only got to solo in 1 episode. But these guys wrote a Liquidator story that was good enough in comic form to have been another episode. If you guys want to read it, it was republished by Boom in the Darkwing Duck Classics trade paperback. If you can still find that, it's in there. So yeah, great writers, and honestly, this is one of the best written episodes of the entire series. Like, really, this thing has got great dialogue, fantastic running gags that just come back. And they're juggling all these characters. Everybody is perfectly in character. No one's written badly. It's funny as all get out, this one. One of the best episodes of the entire series. The one thing I wish it had was better animation. But even Sun Wu does a good job with this one. Like, we said that Days of Blunder was really good. This one's just as good. Because there's a lot to do in this episode. And Sun Wu does it pretty good. Do I wish it went to Disney Japan? Yeah, a little bit, but they're good. I really can't complain. All around, it's a great episode.
Yeah.
So unless you have something you want to add, Will?
No, let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's get
go
into
right
the
ahead.
plot. All right.
Justice Ducks Part 1. Let's begin.
Let's go. It starts off with DW fixing his hair, and he's jamming some Elvis music.
Yep, he is getting ready for a hot date.
Yeah, with my favorite. Well, not my favorite, but she's definitely top 3. Morgana.
He's getting ready for a date with. Wait a second, Will. He's dating Morgana now?
Yep.
Wait. Let's back out. What happened? He's dating Morgana?
He's dating Morgana.
Wait, the last time we saw Morgana, she was a bad guy, and he was ready to take her off to jail. Did we miss something here? Yes, we did miss something here.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we should have gotten another Morgana episode by now. Ghoul of My Dreams is the bridging episode between Fungus Among Us and this one, and it hasn't aired yet because they wanted to save it for Halloween. Yeah, I guess, but yeah, now he's dating Morgana.
Yeah.
And we don't just see Morgana here, we see Goslin. And we see a few other characters we're meeting for the first time.
Voiced by Frank Welker. Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of Frank Welker characters. We meet Archie the Spider and Ekin Squeak, her bats.
Yep.
Who also make their first appearance in Ghoul of My Dreams. And you don't really get much of them in this episode, but Archie kind of hangs out on Morgana's shoulder the entire episode pretty much, without even naming who he is. He gets named in the next episode. Yeah. And so do Ekin Squeak. You just kind of see these guys with no explanation about who they are. But they both were voiced by Frank Welker. I won't talk too much about them because we haven't gotten a proper introduction. Yeah. The one thing you notice right off the bat that Ekin Squeak have different personalities. One has angry eyes. The other one's got tired eyes, and his tongue's always hanging out. And
they don't do much in this episode. They're kind of just there for show more. Archie
has a definitive personality. We just don't get any of it in this episode. Like I said, he just sits on her shoulder the entire time. Yeah. So Morgana says she's going to fix Darkwing's part. And this is the first really instance we get of Morgana, of the new Morgana, who's not as good with magic as she was in Fungus Among Us, because when she tries to straighten Darkwing's part, what does she turn him into?
Was it a moose or a bull?
A yak.
Oh, it was a yak. Okay.
And this is the first of the stories, I have to say stories because it's 2 episodes, of the running gags. There's a bunch of running gags that are introduced really early that pay off throughout the story. The first is this yak. She turns Darkwing Duck into a yak.
Mhm.
Gosalyn's impressed. She wonders if Morgana can turn Darkwing into...
Pudding.
That's our next running gag that pays off as the story goes along. So she changes him back, and suddenly the lights go out.
Yeah, it's a blackout across the city.
You know what it means in St. Canard when the lights go out.
Oh yeah, there's only one person in that, but DW insists he's got to pull out his infra pink ultra specs.
Good, you got that. Yeah. If only his magnifying glass had a name.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know where to begin, and Gosalyn says, "How about the power company, Cosmo?"
But he's not gonna give her credit. He's like, "Why don't I check the power company?"
I love the animation here. It zooms into the window of the building, and they animate the buildings getting closer to the camera. I think that's actually really cool. It's a bit of daring animation on Sun Woo's part. So yeah, who's inside the building?
Megavolt.
It's Megavolt, and like always, he shows up really early.
Yep.
That's Megavolt for you. He's the first villain we meet.
Yeah.
And so Darkwing wants to go after him, and he agrees to let Morgana come with him.
But she's disappointed about their date, though.
Yeah, she is, but she's happy she gets to go along. And so Darkwing shows up. He's got Morgana behind him, and we get the one and only entrance we get in these two-part episode. It is, "I am the single career man all women want to date." He's so full of himself.
And then we get toy teeth pop up on his feet.
Finally,
man.
the toy teeth. We didn't get those in Days of Blunder, but we get them now, the toy teeth.
Yep.
And there's Quacker Jack.
It's playtime. He doesn't say it, though.
Which he doesn't say in this episode.
Yeah.
It's funny how it takes that long to get to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we get another running gag here that starts. Darkwing Duck calling each villain the most dangerous criminal ever. He says it so many times it loses meaning.
Yep.
So this is obviously the first time we see Quacker Jack and Megavolt together. And I feel like these two were created to be teamed up.
Yeah,
like,
man, the chemistry's there, man.
I mean, these two have the best chemistry. Like, Megavolt just puts his arm around Quacker Jack. Like, they're so buddy-buddy. So Darkwing gets his butt kicked.
Yeah, he wanted to fight them by himself. He didn't want Morgana to interfere.
When she does interfere...
Well, before she interferes, he's up in an electric chair, doesn't he?
Yeah, they strap him to an electric chair. That's dark. And Morgana tries to interfere, and she turns him into pudding.
Yeah.
So yeah,
she gotta work on her aim.
yeah. Morgana's magic isn't what it's cracked up to be in this one. No. And so Megavolt attaches something called the Electro Slave device to the power coupling in the building, and they talk about the boss. We don't know who the boss is.
They mention it, and then they kind of both pull pranks on each other.
Yeah, I love it. Quacker Jack shocks Megavolt with Joy Buzzer, and Megavolt electrocutes Quacker Jack.
He gets burnt to a crisp.
But they love it. They leave laughing together.
Yeah, arms around each other. You could tell they're having a blast.
I love whenever Quacker Jack and Megavolt laugh together.
Mm-hmm.
They got such distinctive laughs that together it's just brilliant. So Darkwing goes back. Morgana takes him back to the tower as pudding.
Yeah, and then she tries to turn him back into Darkwing. Doesn't happen.
Right. Doesn't happen. What does he turn into again?
Back to that yak.
Yeah, I love how he goes, Darkwing Yak. Okay. Now it's the next day because it's daylight, and we get two more villains. One of them we have met from the very beginning. It's Mr. Bushroot
and Liquidator.
And we get the first appearance of the Liquidator. And Liquidator, we should have met him by now, but we haven't. But he is a great villain. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
He was voiced by Jack Angel. This guy was born in 1930. He is 89 this year, and I believe he is still active.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we thought Michael Bell was at it for a long time. Wow, yeah, Jack Angel, 89. Earliest voiceover work, 1973. You want to guess what company he worked for the earliest?
Hanna-Barbera. Oh my God.
Like every single person we've talked about, he worked on the Smurfs
Man.
and Scooby-Doo. And like Bell, he did Voltron, Transformers, G.I. Joe, so he was very busy in the 80s. Worked on Tailspin, Bonkers, Quack Pack, a little bit of everything the last 20 years. And what's going to be a theme with the new voice actors we're going to be talking about, for the most part, last 20 years, really, lots of video game work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at a certain point, a lot of these guys, they jumped to video games in, like, the early 2000s, and they're still doing it.
Why not,
It's-
man? It's a market for it, man.
That's what Jack Angel's still doing. He's still doing video game work. He is still active, and he is great as this character. I know we'll talk more about Liquidator when we get to Dry Hard,
Yeah.
but he was hard to write for. That's why he didn't appear very often, because Liquidator has a very specific way of talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
all
that
like
TV talk.
yeah, TV talk, which makes him hard to write for. Also, you know what? I'll save more discussion on Liquidator as we get further into this. But
Okay.
yeah, cool villain. So him and not Quackerjack, I'm sorry. So
Bushroot.
Liquidator and Bushroot are at the police station.
Yeah, and Liquidator, he flushes them out really quick.
Yeah, Bushroot's planting seeds on the foundation, and when the police show up, yeah, Liquidator gets rid of them super quick. You know, it's funny in this entire sequence coming up, even though we're more familiar with Bushroot, Liquidator just owns everything.
Yeah.
He is our main focus here. Bushroot's a wimp. He's afraid of one policeman.
Yeah, he's hiding behind Liquidator.
And Liquidator is strong enough to get rid of the entire police force on his own.
Yeah.
He's formidable villain. So the police call for help. Darkwing Duck hears the call. Morgana turns him back to himself.
He
and
wants to
he's
go
off.
alone, though. Yeah,
This
he
time
wants
he's
to go
going
alone.
Yeah.
Morgana can't come. Nope.
No. And it's a new character time.
Yeah, we get Stegmutt.
Yeah, not one of my favorites, but here comes Stegmutt. He is a duck turned dinosaur, basically, as Darkwing says. He is a big Stegosaurus.
Yeah, he's selling hot dogs.
He is selling hot dogs. Stegmutt was voiced by Joey Kamen, born in 57. He's 62 now. On camera, starting 77. Voiceover, starting 83. I won't even make you guess. You know it's Hanna-Barbera.
Is that that's our podcast running joke now, our own running gag, huh?
Yeah,
Hanna-Barbera.
I wish I liked the company more. Smurfs, Shirt Tails. Darkwing was his only Disney work. This was the only character he did for Disney. And he's been exclusively video games since 2004. So I don't have much to say about him. But, you know, he's Stegmutt. He's not one of my favorite characters. And he's selling hot dogs.
Yeah, the DW comes along. He's in the rat catcher, and he crashes into him.
Yeah, just totals a rat catcher. And we need a motivation for Stegmutt to get involved in this one, because he isn't really a hero. Darkwing buys a hot dog for 75 cents, does not take his change. And the only reason now Stegmutt is involved in this entire story is he wants to give him his quarterback.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what Stegmutt does in this episode. So Darkwing heads off. Stegmutt follows him, trying to give him his quarter. So what do Liquidator and Bushroot do?
Bushroot is planning he's planting seeds to make a huge beanstalk to get rid of the police station, and then of course Liquidator, he waters those seeds.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the police station's like several hundred feet in the air.
Yeah, it goes way up there.
You know, Bushroot and Liquidator are a pretty good team. I'm surprised they didn't go back to. It just makes total sense, plants and water.
Yeah.
But this is the only time they ever got teamed up. I urge you not to search Bushroot and Liquidator on Google Images. I just urge you to stay away from that, listeners. I've heard terrible things. Anyway, Darkwing shows up. He starts to do an I Am the Terror.
He starts it, but yeah, it doesn't get finished.
Yeah, Stegmutt arrives and knocks a street light on him. And, you know, so far, Darkwing could have taken care of all of this. I don't blame him for getting upset, because so far the characters who are trying to help him are not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get a great running gag here where Liquidator says they want to play Let's Pretend. They want to pretend that Darkwing's on fire.
Yeah.
So they play a game of...
Put out the Darkwing.
Oh, it's great. You got Stegmutt with Darkwing by the feet, like slamming against the ground, singing "Put out the Darkwing, put out the Darkwing."
Yeah, he's tossing him around like a rag dog, just like in the last episode, Days of Blunder, the Mallard guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say I'm gonna mention it a few times. The Foley work, the sound effects work in this episode is terrific. Like whenever Liquidator is on screen, you hear the water moving in his body.
Mm-hmm.
Like they pay careful attention to add that sound effect. It's like great, and it's also like his voice, like has this watery sound effect to it too. They pay a lot of attention to. But they escape, and Darkwing tells off Stegmutt and leaves.
Yep.
And Stegmutt, he throws a hissy fit, and what does he do?
He knocks down the beanstalk, but it's a little bit of foreshadowing. You don't get to see it get knocked down yet, but it happens.
Yeah, but you see the shadow going over Darkwing, and you see a couple of guys out in a boat, middle of the ocean. What are they throwing out? Did you catch that?
Yeah, they were throwing out VHS tapes, right? It was the 3rd season of Pelican's Island.
Yep. And we get yet another new character.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it?
Neptunia and a little bit of Hal.
Yeah, her pet was an octopus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's Neptunia, another character we should have met by now. She appeared in an episode called Something Fishy, which is part of the ABC run.
Mike,
so,
that's her only episode, right?
Yes. I have a theory about Neptunia and Stegmutt. My theory is they wanted to do Justice Ducks, but they needed characters, hero characters. So my theory is they came up with Neptunia and Stegmutt just for this and had to make origin episodes for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me it makes sense. I could be wrong. Whatever. So Neptunia, voiced by Susan Silo, born 1942. She's 77 now. Her on-camera work began 1960. Most of her career is primarily live action. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. Voiceovers, 1974. Hanna-Barbera.
Oh,
because,
Lord.
of course it's Hanna-Barbera. Pac-Man, Glow Friends, Smurfs, the Jetsons movie. It's always Smurfs. You notice that? It always comes back to Smurfs.
Because there's so many Smurfs characters. They had to...
And Smurf was on the air for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it does make sense. Her first Disney work was on Tailspin. And much like Joey Kamen, mostly video game work since 1999. I feel like, you know what I think must have happened? By the turn of the millennium, a lot of newer voice actors were coming onto the scene, And I think a lot of the veterans just must have found it easier just moving on to video games. Because I notice it happens with a lot of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like less television work and more video games. There must have been a reason for that. So yeah, Susan Silo, Neptunia. I don't know. I really have not much to say about her. But anyway, the police station falls into the water, makes a big mess, crushes Darkwing, and he gets the line now. This is the second most painful moment of my life.
Yeah.
What was the first most painful, Will?
Put out the Darkwing.
Yeah. So Neptunia shows up. Her catchphrase in this one seems to be, "Are these yours?" Because her whole thing is she isn't a superhero. She's just a really angry mutant fish who hates pollution.
Yeah, she's always trying to clean it up. Yeah, if you polluting the ocean, she gets upset.
Yeah, it's her whole thing. Her intro episode goes into all of that. She has a couple of police officers hooked to her pitchfork. Before she gets a word in, Darkwing Duck just goes off on a rant. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even think she wants to help, but he thinks that's what she wants. He goes off on her.
Yeah, she tosses him across the city.
Yeah, she just bodily tosses him clear across town right into the cement. And that would be his third most painful moment of his life. Yeah. So yeah, we've met a lot of villains so far, a lot of heroes. And we are about to meet probably the most popular Darkwing Duck villain of all time. So Megavolt, Liquidator, Quackerjack, and Bushroot are answering to the boss. Before I talk about the boss, we get the first appearance of a little guy named
Mr. Banana Brain. Yes.
This is the first time we see Mr. Banana Brain. He was in Toys R Us, and a weird prototype version of him was also in Whiffle While You Work. But here's the first time we see him by air date, I love Mr. Banana Brain. It's such a great design, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Like, I want a doll of Banana Brain.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm excited about Mr. Banana Brain, but I gotta save my Banana Brain and Quacker Jack talk. I gotta save it for another episode.
this is
Yeah.
Cracker Jack is just a minor player in this one.
Hmm.
But yeah, the big reveal, the big reveal is who their boss is. The chair turns around and
I
it
gotta give it to you, Mike.
is
It's yours. All yours.
NEGADUCK. Oh, I love NEGADUCK so much. I love this character. And it's NEGADUCK. It's the NEGADUCK we know and love. Yellow jacket. It's red and black, black mask, NEGADUCK. And it's him. And I'm gonna say there was not a previous NEGADUCK episode. We missed nothing. This is the episode where NEGADUCK comes back.
Mhm.
This is the first NEGADUCK episode written after NEGADUCK. That's amazing.
No more Negatron.
Because like I explained way back when we recorded NEGADUCK, Tad Stones loved the character. He wanted to bring him back.
Mhm.
And it was like, let's just do it. Well, how can we do it? I don't care. Let's just bring him back. And here he is.
But he does bring him back with a little bit of elements from the previous one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll get into that as this episode goes on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We do see something very familiar from that first episode.
Mhm.
And so yeah, NEGADUCK. And it's just so funny how this is the first one they wrote with him, and he's just out of the box. He's NEGADUCK. And Bush and his target now is Shush.
Yeah,
And
he wants Shush out.
And when Bushroot asks what happens if Darkwing Duck shows up, what does NEGADUCK do?
That shotgun, baby.
He blows away the entire back wall of the room and says something like that. But first. And we end with just his eyes glowing as we fade out. And can you believe this is only the end of the first act?
I know, right? So much has happened, man.
In 11 and a half minutes. I will point out these Disney shows had first acts that were half the length of the episodes. Believe it or not, we're halfway through the episode and it's only the end of the first act. But yeah, I love NEGADUCK. I love this guy so much. And there's so much to talk about with NEGADUCK coming up. So our second act starts. We're in Shush.
Yeah, DW's there with LP. We get an LP appearance.
As if this episode didn't have enough characters, they make sure to give us Launchpad, and here's Jagander Hooter, who is fretting that 4 of Darkwing Duck's arch enemies have joined forces. And Darkwing doesn't care. He doesn't care if it's 4, 8, 326. He doesn't care.
He wants the challenge. He wants the glory, pretty much.
But this is where you see where Darkwing's kind of getting in, a little bit too much of an ego, where he conveniently forgets that the villains got away with destroying the police station and whatever they did with the power company. Launchpad points it out, but Darkwing just blows him off. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the 3 of them leave, and then we get Sarah Bellum again.
Yeah, she's showing NEGADUCK to her newest weapon.
Are you sure it's NEGADUCK? I don't know.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's NEGADUCK imposing
Darkwing.
as Darkwing.
Yeah, but I love when she says, "But since you are Darkwing Duck," he looks up at the camera and he has this demented grin. Yeah. And the way you know it's NEGADUCK is his mask is black. Even though he's in Darkwing's outfit, his mask is black. So yeah, Darkwing, Launchpad, and Hooter show up again because Launchpad forgot his keys.
Yeah, this part's hilarious too when Darkwing and NEGADUCK see each other.
It's hilarious for several reasons. First of all, what it does is it shows how similar Darkwing and NEGADUCK are, because the 2 of them get in each other's faces and say the exact same thing.
Yeah, they're mocking each other. It's hilarious, man.
It's basically a mirror image of the 2 of them saying the same thing in each other's face. I feel like they animated one Darkwing and then flipped it because it's like the same, and it's so good. Like Jim is doing the same lines, but like obviously one's Darkwing, one's NEGADUCK, and I will post screenshots. I actually have screenshots of this sequence from an old blog I was working on years ago. But the Sun Wu animation here goes off the rails. Whoever was animating this drew the characters totally off model, but it's so funny and it works for this scene. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll post screenshots to our Facebook group. But it's such a funny sequence.
Yeah, and it's completely in sync, man. It's completely in sync.
And the capper is when Bellum goes, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to kill them both. Hooter's like, Dr. Bellum! And how do we find out which one's NEGADUCK?
Oh, this is where we go back to the old episode. Darkwing brings up the fuzzy bunny.
Yep, and NEGADUCK whips out a shotgun and just opens fire in the room. Everybody has to take cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we know which one's NEGADUCK. Yeah. So NEGADUCK grabs what Bellum calls a Spafo 650 pie gun. Mm-hmm. Grabs it, shoots Darkwing right in the face with it.
And takes his eyeballs out.
Yeah, great visual gag. Be careful with that. You'll put someone's eye out. And when he pulls the pie tin off his face, his eyes are in the pie. It's such a great visual gag. But is this ordinary pie filling?
Oh, no.
Expando Whammo pies.
Yep.
It fills up the entire Shush building. I think this is the most we might see of Shush.
Yeah, this is their headquarters, man. It's like completely filled up with pie. Because you even see the other soldiers or whatever agents running out of the building.
Yeah, it's coming through the television monitors, it's coming out of the loudspeakers, coming out of the elevator. It's pie everywhere.
Yeah, and Mike, we get a opposite gag of what Darkwing's been saying.
Yes, all through the episode, we've mentioned it already. He keeps saying this is the most painful moment of my life. But NEGADUCK says this is the happiest moment of my life.
He's stomping Darkwing out.
He's stomping the hell out of Darkwing. This is for Megavolt, Bushroot, Liquidator, Quackerjack, and NEGADUCK makes 5. And he says...
They are announced, the Fearsome 5.
The Fearsome 5. There we go. We got the Fearsome 5.
They have a name.
And NEGADUCK escapes. So, and we got another character coming up soon.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to be excited. Well, yeah, you're going to be super excited about this one. But before we get to your character, we get a quick cameo of somebody that I know you enjoy so far. Because we keep bringing them up.
Yeah, because so Darkwing and Launchpad are on the Ratcatcher heading back to the bridge. And Darkwing's all full of himself. He's so happy. Man. He has all these villains. And he's like, they took out the police station. Then they took out Shush. This is great. It's like... okay, if you say so. And they also passed Stegmutt, who still wants to give him that quarter. And yeah, we see a character I've grown to love after the past few months. It's Tom Lockjaw.
Yeah, he's with the Army National Guard.
Yeah, he's on the scene. And just as Darkwing Duck says, what could be worse?
Your boy pops up.
My boy pops up. Lockjaw says, here comes Duckburg's hometown hero.
Gizmo Duck.
Oh, here we go. Gizmo Duck. Gizmo Duck shows up. And, okay, so Gizmo Duck should have been introduced already. Tiff of the Titans, another Saturday morning episode, which didn't air yet. Of course, we know who Gizmo Duck is.
Of course.
We know who he is. If we watched DuckTales over the past 2 years before this aired, we know who Gizmo Duck is. What we don't know is how much Darkwing hates him. Like, he hates Gizmo Duck.
Yeah, he throws a huge tantrum about him.
Yeah, we don't even need to see the previous episode. I think it's pretty much implied. Someone like Darkwing would hate someone like Gizmo Duck. I mean, it's obvious. So yeah, Gizmo Duck. What can be said about Gizmo Duck? I love Gizmo Duck.
Yeah, you're a huge Gizmo Duck fan. I know that.
I've always been a huge Gizmo Duck fan. Just something about him. I love the design. I think it's great. Just the fact that he balances on a unicycle. Just Hamilton Camp's performance. Just the design. I love just how he's drawn. He's such a great character, and he brought so much to those later DuckTales episodes that are so great. And he's great on Darkwing, and I love Gizmo Duck. And did you know? Here's a fun tidbit. Do you know what his original name was supposed to be?
It was supposed to be with that R that's on his chest. I can't remember what it was though.
Roboduck.
Roboduck. Okay.
Yes, and that little insignia on his chest is supposed to be an R. Which they flipped it for the new DuckTales, so it actually looks more like a G.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's one big difference visually between this Gizmo Duck and the one from DuckTales. Did you catch it?
No, what is it?
His upper arms are not painted black.
Oh, okay.
In all 5 episodes of Darkwing Duck that he appears in, his arms are not painted black.
Okay.
I don't think that was a mistake. I've asked Tad Stones. The answer was pretty much Well, this isn't the same Gizmo Duck.
Ah, okay.
Because remember remember what he said?
Hmm.
Different universes. This isn't the same universe as DuckTales.
Okay.
So that's his explanation. So yeah, and it's still Hamilton Camp. I feel like he's voicing him a little bit different in this episode, not quite the same as in DuckTales, but it's fine. And so Darkwing's on the bridge with Launchpad and Gizmo Duck. Gosling's up in the tower with Morgana.
Yeah, she's trying to convince Morgana to come down there.
And then Stegmutt shows up too.
Yeah, he's still chasing Darkwing for that change.
But you notice Stegmutt and Gosling are old friends. They recognize each other right away.
Right away, yeah. But that's an episode that hasn't aired yet.
Hasn't aired yet. The two of them have a history together for sure. And things are getting out of control for DW. Like, he's losing his patience. And Gizmo Duck keeps asking people if they're here to lend a hand.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear what he called Gosling?
I forgot what he was. What he called her.
His Gizmo buddy.
Mm-hmm.
He called everyone on DuckTales that. Huey, Dewey, and Louie were his Gizmo buddies. So yeah, in the it's cool that they remember that.
Yeah.
And so Darkwing's having a rant.
Yeah, he's still throwing that tantrum, but Launchpad tells him, go ahead.
There's something you ought to see. And just as Darkwing says he's perfectly capable of defending his town by himself, we cut to the other end of the bridge and we see
the Fearsome Five.
Yep, Megavolt hits a button. Green beam of light flies out of the power company, and we find out what the Electroslave device was. What is it?
It's like a force field.
Yep. It slices clean through the bridge, knocking the entire National Guard into the bay. And
go ahead.
I don't know how people can't just fly over it because there's no top to it.
Yeah.
But so the whole city is cut off from the rest of the world, and so NEGADUCK and the other guys, they jump into a negacopter. I don't know if it's called that, but I call it that.
Yeah.
And off they go.
Yeah, but Gizmo, he goes after them while they're in the chopper, and what are those things called? Yeah, what are those things called when it's like that weight thing?
Anvil.
And okay, well,
An anvil.
Yeah, NEGADUCK drops one. Gizmo catches it and he lands on Darkwing.
Drops him right to the ground.
Yeah.
Another thing about Gizmo Duck I'll mention. I mentioned the sound effects work with Liquidator, but every time you see Gizmo Duck in a shot, you hear his motor running. Like, the attention to just the detail in this episode, and like whenever he moves, you hear the movement of the suit. They didn't have to do that. Like, these are all the same sound effects from DuckTales. They borrowed them straight out. And like, the attention to detail is just fantastic. And also, whenever you see the slave device in the background, the big force field, you also hear the sound effects that makes too. And so the Fearsome Five are gone.
Neptunia shows up.
Neptunia, again, are these yours? And she's got the National Guard stuck to her pitchfork.
Yeah, and then Gosling comes along and she gives them a name.
She name drops the Justice Ducks for the very first time. And another running gag. We're not ducks, says Neptunia. I used to be, says Stegmutt. So yeah, Gosling thinks it'd be great if they were a superhero team. She tells them all the things they could do.
Yeah, she hypes them up, man. Like, she really hypes them up. Every last one of them.
And we also get something, another Jimism from Darkwing for the very first time. At least according to air date. Gizmo Duck says, Justice Ducks, I like it. A team of superheroes united in the common goal. And Darkwing goes, Justice Ducks united in the common goal. He does it a lot when he's really ticked off. Usually the Gizmo Duck. It's a thing he would end up doing a lot. He does it in Tiff of the Titans, but since that one hasn't aired yet, this is the first time he does it. So Gizmo Duck goes through this whole plan.
Yeah, he gives a full plan.
Yeah, it involves singing monks, jumping out of a birthday cake, alerting the president, and having an interview with Tom Lockjaw. He turns on the TV and Lockjaw goes, "Hi." And it's just Gizmo Duck. He's super positive, super altruistic. You totally see how it could tick off Darkwing.
Oh, the DW is he's tapped out, man.
He is seething.
He's boiling hot.
Like, he's done. His boiling point has been reached. He's fed up.
He wants everybody gone. Get out of here.
Yeah, he loses it. He tells everyone to get lost, including Morgana.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I don't need you or you or you, and then to Gizmo Duck, and especially not you. Oh, he hates him so much.
They all leave.
Even Goslin and Launchpad, they're hurt.
Yeah.
And as Morgana leaves, Eek and Squeak, they give him a little raspberry.
Mm-hmm.
So Gizmo Duck doesn't leave though.
Gizmo's the only one that doesn't leave, but DW knows how to get rid of him.
Yeah, there's an overdue library book over there. So off goes Gizmo Duck. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all the heroes are gone. Darkwing's off on his own, wondering where to find the secret hideout.
Now this part is hilarious.
If only he looked behind him.
There's a big flag.
Tallest building in the city, a flag just rises. And even with a goofy sound effect, like whoop, as he's talking. Like, how did he miss that? What he doesn't miss is
the breadcrumb.
A tiny breadcrumb on the bridge. He pulls out a full-size microscope. It's like again, like the giant hydraulic jack from Days of Blunder. He has this big microscope. He just pulls out from behind his back whenever he needs it. And yeah, there he is. He finds NEGADUCK's hideout. It's a big flag with NEGADUCK's face on it. How do you miss that?
Yeah.
And
NEGADUCK reveals though how he tricked him.
He put the crumb there.
Yeah. Because he knew he wouldn't look at the flag.
He put it from the hotel's questionable room service. Mm-hmm. He opens the door just as Darkwing gets there and trips him.
Yeah. And
he
then
goes, I see you found the crumb. I knew you wouldn't notice the enormous flag. And you get this silent shot of Darkwing on the floor. The only sounds you hear are his eyes blinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, what did the Fearsome Five do?
Oh, they all take a shot at him.
Oof. He is outmatched. He is outmatched. Each one of them gets to yeah.
Yeah, they all get it. And we get a scene from the theme, right?
This is our last theme song shot for a very, very long time. It's Darkwing on the roller skate.
Mm-hmm. Falling Yeah.
And I always, I knew of him. I just didn't know who he was. But I always knew he was showing up. So yeah, they drop him into a trap door out the side of the building, and dun dun dun.
To be continued.
To be continued. Yup. And that's Justice Ducks Part 1.
Part 1. We still got a whole nother part to go, Mike.
Yeah, but I love this episode. I think it's so well done.
It's a good one, man. It's fun. It's like the Avengers / Justice League, but you also get the Sinister Six. It's fun, man.
It really is. It's a big episode.
And they all get to shine at one time too. That's what I like too.
Yeah, I don't feel like any one character in this episode is shortchanged.
Mm-hmm.
Like even though you don't know Liquidator when he shows up, they give him just enough screen time you get who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Neptunia and Stegmutt, and of course you don't see much of NEGADUCK right now.
No, not yet.
But he is gonna dominate in the next episode. Absolutely dominate. NEGADUCK's gonna go on. If you look at the production numbers, you see that all of a sudden everybody fell in love with him. Like, the very next episode after these two, at least in production order, is the Negaverse.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that is the secret origin of Darkwing Duck and Darkwing Doubloon. They discovered NEGADUCK, they fell in love with him, and then bam, 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 they started writing all these NEGADUCK episodes. Yeah. And he ended up becoming recently he's overshadowed NEGADUCK. He's the one most people love. He definitely has the biggest fan base of all the villains.
Mm-hmm.
It is no shock that NEGADUCK has a role in the new DuckTales. We don't know what it's going to be, but I'm not shocked at all by what they did with him. Because he's just that popular. He's totally iconic.
What I like about this episode, Mike, it's like you get to see so many different things with Darkwing. You see the humor with him and Morgana, where he keeps getting changed to the pudding, to the yak. You see the frustration in him because like people keep interfering and he wants the glory all to himself. So you see the selfishness of him, you see him get outmatched, it's so much going on, with Darkwing.
It's the funniest thing though. They try hard enough to, no matter how hard he gets, they have to keep him sympathetic, because you do kind of agree with him at first, because Morgana and Stegmutt do make things worse for him. I don't know if he would have beaten Quackerjack and Megavolt, probably not, but they do make the situation worse. You do understand why he's mad.
Yeah.
But it's the outburst that, that's where he's wrong. Getting that mad, And it's funny. This episode, the next one, walks a tightrope between making him sympathetic and totally unlikable, And it does a great job. Again, the running gags that pop up in the future, this one, the next episode, it's just great. Again, in my top 5. Okay. I absolutely love it.
Now, speaking from the villain's perspective, what I also like from the villains is like, in most Darkwing episodes, we know Darkwing's going to be the hero. He's going to save the day. In this episode, you really see them as they're teaming up, that they are powerful. They are kicking his butt, even though he's getting interference from other people, it still didn't seem like he was going to win. Even though he kind of had Liquidator and Bushroot there, you didn't know if he was going to win or not.
Right.
And you get to see their power. Like, hey, you might have beat us one-on-one, but there's no way you're going to defeat 2 of us together. And then boom, now there's 4 of us, and now we have a 5th,
Yeah.
You need help.
This episode really is the only one, if we're going to talk totally honest, that really treats the Fearsome Five as a competent, legitimate threat. Because the shtick after this tends to be the 4 of them are idiots, and NEGADUCK doesn't really need them.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, because this episode does a great job with them as an actual functioning group. Because you did mention that Darkwing Duck can't beat them all together. But if we fast forward a long time from now to the episode Jailbird, he beats them single-handedly, all 4 of them, when they come at him. With no effort. So I kind of wish they did. I don't know, because I do love these characters when they're together. It's so fun to watch them together,
Yeah, especially the Quackerjack and Megavolt team.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
No wonder they came back together. And of course you got NEGADUCK, who's just, again, he's fantastic. So yeah, any other thoughts on this one?
The running gags makes it hilarious, because also, like they even brought old gags back, the Tom Lockjaw, the Fuzzy Bunnies, the shotgun. So like if you've been following it, you're getting a lot of these running gags,
Right.
And of course you're also lost on some stuff, with Neptunia, Stegmutt. You're kind of confused and lost, Liquidator, but overall, man, I really enjoyed this episode, man. I kind of wish they had a full hour for just part 1.
Yeah. This could have been a movie.
Yeah, it definitely could have been
a movie. I feel like if this series was happening now, this would have been a special, like, hour-long episode. Like how they did with the DuckTales season finales. This would have been like a long episode, just itself. So yeah, this is in my top 5. So I bet you can guess what my gas canister rating is.
I'm sure it's a 5.
It's a 5. There's no getting around it. I love it.
Yeah, it's a 5 for me as well. It's not my top 5, but I think it's last time I think I did a countdown of it. It was like number 6 or
That's
7.
Still really
so
high.
It's right there. It's right. I'm biased toward a few of them, so they kind of jump over it. But for the most part, I do love this episode. I do like how we get a new vehicle, which we really didn't talk about. You kind of mentioned it. It was the
helicopter.
Helicopter. Yeah. It looks so awesome, and like I love how you see all 4 of the other Fearsome Five and one of the eye of the helicopters.
Right.
Yeah.
And the mouth has sharp teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Are we rating the villain on this one?
You know what? Let's save rating. I want to rate NEGADUCK, but I don't want to rate him until the next episode.
Yeah, this isn't really the NEGADUCK part, not part 1.
I don't really think we have anyone to rate because any characters showing up for the first time are getting like origin episodes anyway.
Okay, let's do this for the next one. Let's rate the Fearsome Five and
As
then
a group,
NEGADUCK.
yeah.
And then NEGADUCK by himself. Let's do 2 ratings. We'll give him a little treat for that.
Okay, sure. That sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, that's Just Us Justice Ducks.
Part 1.
Yeah, and if you can't get enough of this episode, they actually adapted it in comic book form.
All right.
If you're interested, way back in the day, you'd have to go searching for it. It was published as a paperback and also in the Disney Adventures magazine. Mm-hmm. No, the Disney Colossal Comics Adventures digest, way back in the early 90s. So if you guys have that comic, cool. If you want to go look for it. So yeah, Justice Ducks. And we'll have a lot more to say next time. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, Mike, where can they check out our podcast at, man?
Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, Apple devices, YouTube, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public.
And
now on, yes, go ahead.
Amazon Echoes.
All right.
I can't say her name. She's right behind me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where we are. Make sure y'all check out our Facebook page, the St. Canard Files, the Darkwing Duck podcast. We're also on Instagram. We've been getting a few emails from people on our Gmail account, which is stcanardfiles@gmail.com. Any feedback, guys, you see I'm throwing out the shout out. I don't know, I can't speak for Mike, but I would also like if you guys participate more in the comments. We get a lot of likes, but not much conversation going. You know, like sometimes I like to hear other people's opinion. And Oscar Tamayo, he had a great video on YouTube. Speaks very articulate, and he opened my eyes to a view, and it's like, oh, I didn't even see it that way of what he was talking about. I don't want to get into that. That's a whole different conversation. But, you know, like sometimes you guys hit some angles and points of views and theories. Hey, let's hear them out, man.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, man. So, Mike, we don't really need to say what episode's next. It's pretty common sense here.
Yeah. I also want to point out when I rate this one as a 5, I'm rating the entire 2-part story, not just this one episode.
Okay.
So just throwing that out there, so you know what I'm going to rate the next one too. So yeah, the next one is Just Us Justice Ducks Part 2, obviously. Mm-hmm. And yeah, tune in next week for that.
All right, you guys stay dangerous and beware the Fearsome Five.
Yep. Have a great night.
Good night, y'all.